Um, okay, I asked you if you think that it's a problem because of your beliefs. Like, is this religious?
No. So as I gave off, I don't know if I'm sure you were in the live about 10 minutes ago when I gave my P1, P2 in conclusion.
Yeah.
Didn't mention religion once, right? So I can give it again. P1 is that it's prima
Yeah.
facie wrong to kill human beings. P2 is that abortion intentionally kills human beings. Conclusion: abortion is prima facie wrong.
Well, why do you think that a fetus is a child, though? Because it's not alive. Like, it's not. There's no
Okay.
scientific
Well,
evidence that it's a child.
child is
And
just a
also,
colloquial. Well, I can answer your question.
a, a
Child is just a
okay, yeah, go
colloquial
ahead.
term that we use to describe the stage of development or like a certain group of people, right? So, for example, like child can just be defined as like a human offspring that's like under the legal age of limit or the under the legal age, right? That's just going to be like
Hmm.
the colloquial definition of a child, right? So it doesn't mean that someone is only morally valuable if they fit that description or definition. No, we believe that we are valuable by who we are, right? And so what I say is human beings are inherently valuable. And we know that human life begins at the moment of conception, and it is alive from the moment of conception. You can look up the National Institute of Health, the American College of Pediatrics, the Stephen Jacobs survey, where yeah, you can go ahead and look it up. The Stephen Jacobs survey, where he interviews 5,500 biologists worldwide, and 96% of them agree human life begins at the moment of conception. Now, you may be wondering, what about the 4%? Of the 4% that said no, they didn't actually say no. 2% said they didn't want to respond because they felt that
Yeah.
their answer was going to be used politically, and then the other 2% said never responded to the survey at all. So it's any embryology textbook will tell you human life begins at the moment of conception, and that's what makes us valuable, not fitting the definition of a child, which, by the way, a human being at the moment of conception does fit that definition of a child. It's a human being under the legal age. Under the legal age.
Okay, but you can have an abortion, like, basically as soon as you're pregnant, right? And the heartbeat doesn't start till, like, 4 weeks after conception. And I don't think that it's a living thing until it at least has a heartbeat.
Okay, you don't think it's a living thing until it has a heartbeat. Is that your claim?
No. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
And
Okay, so just to be clear on your position, would you be okay with abortions up until the heartbeat, but once the heartbeat starts, there's no abortions that should be allowed?
well, yeah, I think that there should be like a time limit on when you can have an abortion.
Right. And so that time limit in your worldview is going to be the heartbeat?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear on your position, you're saying that abortion is permissible up until 5 weeks, which is typically when the heartbeat begins. But after 5 weeks, abortion should be illegal because it's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a much more fair stance than what I've heard, but it's still morally impermissible, and here's why. They're going to be human beings are viable under certain conditions and certain situations throughout our development. Right, so human
Hmm.
beings are viable in the womb up until 22 to 24 weeks. Human beings are viable within our atmosphere, not outside our atmosphere. We're viable outside when we're not underwater. When we're underwater, we're non-viable. Right, like these are certain conditions in which we're able to survive in the same way that an embryo without the heartbeat is able to survive and develop and sustain its own life even without the heartbeat. They're even like for example during a heart transplant surgery, there's like an hour
Hmm.
window in that surgery when that person does not have a heartbeat. Would you say that they're not alive in this case?
But I think that that's different
How is it different?
because they have already had, like, the blood is still in their body, right? They're still warm. They're still alive. Like, their heartbeat just,
It's very
I don't know. I
arbitrary.
don't think that that makes sense. Like, that's an hour versus 4 or 5 weeks
Why is
without
time re-
one even being there.
why is time relevant to moral consideration?
Because, like, without a heartbeat, the baby wouldn't live, right? If you
No,
removed
not
it,
not really true. That's
or
removing it. Removing,
fetus.
sure, that's fine. Saying removing a fetus before, well, it's not even a fetus until 9 weeks. So removing an embryo at 3 weeks is going to unalive it. But it's not
Yeah.
that
It
it's
couldn't live without the mother,
hang
so
on, hang
why
on.
should it have rights?
hang on. Your argument is very flawed, and I'm pointing out the flaw in it. You said that if you removed it at 3 weeks when it does not have a heartbeat, it would unalive. However, even if you were to remove it at 18 weeks when it does have a heartbeat and it
Yeah.
has neurons firing and a brain forming and everything, it's still going to unalive. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier, that human beings are viable at different environments throughout our stages of development.
Yeah.
It, our viability doesn't determine our moral worth. Human beings are viable on so many different things. Human beings on pacemakers, ventilators, they're all dependent upon another entity to sustain their own life. They're non-viable without it. Yet we would still argue they're morally valuable. So in the same way that a fetus is a human being who's non-viable on its own,
But
and
you
it
said it's in a
requires the
human,
mom's
like
life.
it's. Sorry,
Go
that was
ahead.
rude.
Go ahead.
No, I cut you off. That was rude.
I was almost done. I mean, I was just going to say, like, a human being in the womb is going to be just morally valuable, even though it's non-viable outside the mother's womb.
Yeah, but if it can't live on its own, then why should a mother have to go, or a potential mother have to go through something traumatic?
Okay,
Like,
so
I think
yeah, fair question,
that,
and I can give you an answer. However, you're now shifting the goalpost. Earlier, you said you were okay with abortion up until 4 weeks. Viability
yeah,
doesn't happen until 22 to 24 weeks. So now you're shifting the goalpost from 4 weeks to 22 to 24 weeks. So what's actually going to be your pro-choice position? Is it 4 weeks or viability?
4 weeks.
Okay. So then the viability argument is irrelevant. We don't need to talk about it if your position is 4 weeks.
Okay.
So why is the heartbeat necessary for moral considerations?
Because that's when I think a human is, that's when I think that it's alive.
Okay, but human beings are alive during a heart transplant surgery for about an hour when they don't have a heart. Human beings are alive at the moment of conception from a scientific standpoint. Would you acknowledge that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so if they're alive in these instances and they're humans, it's a human life, why doesn't it have the right to life?
It does.
It does have the right to life. Are you sure? It should have the right to life, but does it?
I don't know. Well, no, it doesn't.
It
Like
doesn't have the
legally.
right to. Yeah, it depends on like what state you're in, right? But like from a
Yeah.
legal standpoint, in most states in the United States or in other countries, it's not going to have the right to life. And so, what you should really think about is, hey, if this is a living human being from a scientific point of view, not even religious, scientific, right? If this is a living human being, why don't we
Okay,
give this
but
human being the right to life?
from my personal standpoint, I say the heartbeat. But scientifically, it would not live outside of the mother. And I just think that's like, okay, like I don't like personally, I would never get one after those 4 weeks, right?
Thank you for
But
the gifts. I really appreciate it, interlocutor.
scientifically, it would not live outside of the mother. And if it is only living because of its host, it's more of a parasite than like a human being.
Okay, so there are a couple things there. The first one is that now you're shifting the goalpost again back to
No, I'm
viability.
not. Like, I personally wouldn't, but I'm saying for other people. Like,
That's
I
fine.
think,
You're trying to justify it through the viability argument, right? Saying that a human being is non-valuable because
yeah,
it's non-viable. Well, first off, it's completely viable inside the womb. It's viable in the natural
yeah,
environment in which it was
only
designed
if
to develop
it
in.
wouldn't, if it wouldn't live outside of the outside of a woman.
Right. Again, that's just a viability argument, right? Like you're pleading to location to say that it's non-viable because it can't
So
survive
how is
outside the
it
mother's womb, or it's
how is it
non-valuable.
murder if it needs to leech off someone else's body to?
Okay, sure. I could. Let me ask you a question. You know what a hypothetical is, right?
Yeah,
If I were
I
to make up
do.
some, if I were to make up some hypothetical situation in which I was giving a blood transfusion to my cousin who needed the blood transfusion in order to live, he's currently leeching off of my body to sustain his own life. Now, can I whip out a like a gun and unalive him because he's needing my resources to survive? Or would you say that's murder?
That's murder.
Why?
Because you just pulled out a gun and killed him with
Okay.
intent.
So acting with deadly force
That's
against another human being with intent and it's unjustifiable is morally impermissible. Would you agree?
well, yeah, you're purposely ending his life with guilty intent and action. But
Awesome.
you're
And so in
but
an abortion,
a
a
woman
woman
isn't.
is acting with deadly intent to unalive her own offspring with deadly force. And that's what's happening in an abortion.
No
If you think
woman
it's
has.
morally impermissible outside the womb, then to be consistent, you would have to apply it to inside the womb as well.
No, it is not a woman's intent to kill a child.
That's exactly what happens in an abortion.
No, it isn't. It's
It's not.
it's you. I don't even think you could say it's guilty action, let alone guilty intent.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next guest here in a second, but I want you to think about something. Look up
Okay.
when you hop off the live. Look up when does human life begin scientifically. You're going to see it's at the moment of
I
fertilization.
already have. There's no scientific evidence that it starts at conception.
Are you sure you want to make that claim? I don't
Yeah.
think you want to make that claim. No, you don't.
Okay.
American College of Pediatrics, National Institute of Health, Stephen Jacobs Survey, the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medicine, any embryology textbook, human life begins at the moment of conception. 23 chromosomes from the father, 23 from the mother. They combine to make a new human life, right? This human life has a unique DNA genetic code. It meets all 7 characteristics of life. It's part of the homogeneous. Therefore, it's a human life from the moment of conception. I'm going to move on to the next guest. Do you have any questions before I go?
No.
Okay, well, thanks for coming up and talking. I hope I give you something to think about.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.